I mean, I'm not expecting him to say anything or not. I was.
Well, so here's the thing, though. But the thing is, that Drake had the appropriate reaction in that situation. Like, if you
I'm just commenting.
Watch the footage. I believe him when he says, "Jude, this is horrible. We can't believe it. We wouldn't want to win this way," because he acted that way after it happened. Yep. Like, I think I think if you're being honest with yourself, like I've been in situations where I've been really, really rooting for a sports outcome. Okay, so I'm not like a robot who doesn't care about it at all. And I was very emotionally invested in the Raptors winning this series too, just because mostly I get bored of dynasties, and I just like some of their players, like Kawhi, Lowry, some of these guys. And I understand the feeling, like the initial feeling of, especially when I was younger, of like relief, where you're like, yo, that's their best player. Like we're probably going to win now, you know? Like I remember like having that thought pass through my head when Brady got hurt all those years ago, when I was like a really truly diehard Steelers fan. Now, the difference is when you're like gleeful or like jubilant and you're like waving at the guy and taunting him, that's not, oh, I'm rooting for my team. That's called like you're kind of an evil person and you're taking sports too seriously. And so that's kind of how I left that feeling. And obviously it's like hashtag not all fans. And I get it that there were some people who were more reasonable, but it was just crappy. It was awful to watch. And it was very, like the thing I think I texted you too is that I think it actually, him getting hurt affected the Toronto players more than it affected the Warriors players, because it destroyed the flow of the game. And I think they were so disgusted by the reaction of their own fans that it was like distracting for them. Like, you know, Golden State piled onto the lead in the first few minutes after that injury happened. And I think it's no accident. I think the fans directly distracted the Raptors. And yeah, it was just hard to watch.
I did not have the sound on for this game, so I was not able to pick this up. Injuries really bother me. I hate injuries. They're just awful. Like, they kind of sit with me. I watching players get injured. So I'm actually glad that I was not able to see or basically hear those reactions. I kind of had no idea, basically, because they had playing like house music in the background, so I couldn't hear what else was going on. All right, let's talk about some of the basketball pieces here. Toronto, you called it in the moment and texted me right when it happened. Toronto is up 6 3 minutes and change left to go. They call a timeout. You immediately send off an angry text that says, like, basically expletive, what are they doing, expletive. Why?
I would never use that many expletives, so I don't want you to mislead our fan base.
Like, what are they doing? This timeout is the stupidest thing ever, and it kind of ends up being the case. I don't know if the game turns on that timeout. It really sure seemed like it did. And then they end up going off and losing. Do you think when it's all said and done, that is like that ends up being like the ultimate turning point of the series, as much as the Kevin Durant injury? What are your feelings going on into Game 6 here with Toronto going back to Golden State? They are 3-point underdogs, which is basically Vegas saying it's a pick 'em and you're getting the 3 points. It's actually typically like more like 1.5, 2 points for home court. Where do you land on kind of that turning point here, and where we are, what we're looking at going into Game 6?
Right. So I think going into Game 6, I think the best proxy is probably Game 4. It's going to be a much more normal game. You're going to have an overwhelming talent advantage on the Toronto side, in my opinion. And Golden State's even more hurt now than they were in Game 4. Sure, Durant's gone for good, obviously. But Kevon Looney, I think he's another kind of underrated piece here.
It's a devastating loss for them.
Well, he might play, by the way.
I thought he was out. I thought he was confirmed out the rest of the season. I'm going to look this up real quick while you're talking.
The talk now is that he's optimistic, actually, that he's going to play.
This guy deserves like some kind of postseason award for like Iron Man. This guy's playing with a freaking like broken shoulder blade.
Yeah, so it's a fracture around the collarbone. And
optimistic. I cannot believe this. I thought maybe I just misread it that he was out for the rest of the game last game. I cannot.
So he re-aggravated the injury after that crash in the third quarter. They took him out because the pain was just simply overwhelming. Now, it's an interesting subplot here is that all along, like, the media has been like, broken collarbone, like, you can't put this guy out here, but then like kind of giving the Golden State trainers the benefit of the doubt, because they've been like, oh, well, you can't actually aggravate the injury. It's just going to be painful. And so that's what Looney's been operating under. But this is also the same training staff that just okayed and signed off on a situation that led to the worst injury in finals history, probably. So, like, are they going to be just as cavalier with Looney now? Like, yeah, you can't aggravate this injury, man. It's going to be fine. Like, what if it's just not fine? Like, at some point, can he, like, sue them for an unsafe workplace? Because I'll tell you what, dude, with him out there grimacing, like, every time, like, a forearm comes down on his collarbone, I just like wince reflexively. I've had an issue around my collarbone, as you know, for a long time, in my my first rib area there, and it's just so painful. Like even like the slightest bumps. Like if I catch a door frame as I walk through, it's painful. So I can't imagine like Serge Ibaka crashing over you for an offensive rebound.
Or like when a bully walks down the hall towards you and just gives you the shoulder. Like that's one of those.
Well, like when that happens to me too, it's been like, guys, we're almost 40. You know,
I'm just trying to get to my locker. Come on, man. God.
Shut up, nerd. That's why I can't go back to New Jersey anymore. It's all the bullying. It's just outrageous. But yeah, so I do think Looney is going to be less effective in this game than he was in Game 4 too, and I just think the Dubs, they're just outmanned. I mean, one of the things you texted me about at some point, I can't remember, but you were like, the Dubs have shot like 48% from three, Toronto shot 25% from three, and they're down 4, and then you sent me like a "we're gonna win" gif or whatever, and I was like, right, yeah, like Golden State, they have otherworldly, best of all time level shooters. Still really tough to shoot 50% from three. So
they have no more. They have no more shots to fire here, and the pun intended. Like they, I love from a betting perspective, the +3 for Toronto and the money line here. I love it. Like I think it's almost a lock. Like I just don't see. I can't look. It's easy to look at this end of this last game and say, well, Durant was hurt. Golden State did it on the road. And they won, and I'm not taking anything away from that. Like it was an unbelievable win. I frankly can't believe they won, even with the timeout. Forget with the timeout, whatever. Like the timeout, that one thing shouldn't affect. They still came back from 6. Like it's a crazy gutted out win.
Yeah, they made 3 straight threes.
One thing that basketball does all the time is regresses to the mean, and this is the thing we see all. It will be the thing that why basketball in a lot of ways is so predictive. It's why sometimes it gets boring near the end of these things, because it's like once you give a 7-game series,
the best team usually wins.
The best team just wins, and there's no doubt about it. The current makeup of these two teams, Toronto's just the better team. I cannot be unconvinced of that. They're still series favorites to win, and that's because they have to only win one, and Golden State has to win 2. So that's what the odds are born out of that. But and of all of any team, in terms of like a mental factor, where like a really bad loss like that, I'm less worried about it affecting like the key components, specifically Kawhi. Like Toronto is just like that team to me. Like I guess they don't seem like they get shook really, and mostly it's because Kawhi is just like, I mean, whatever people want to call it, locked in. I have other terms that I think describe him, but like he doesn't care. That guy's just going to go out and just do his same thing. And when you say Game 4, games 3 and Game 4 were like better proxies. They went into Golden State and just smashed them Game 3 by 14, and then beat them by 13 in Game 4. Like then Durant comes back and
Clay wasn't there in Game 3, so that's why I said Game 4.
Still, they won by 13. So they won by 13 with Clay back, and Clay played that whole game. And so I don't know, man. I think this line to me is a complete overreaction to one game, and I think that Toronto takes the series here. I think that they're going to come out very focused. I don't think it's gonna. They're not a team that seems like this kind of stuff bothers them. The coach, Nick Nurse, this stuff doesn't bother him at all. This guy does crazy things sometimes, and a lot of times they've worked out this season. Sometimes they don't. That kind of mentality is like perfect for this kind of situation. Like I get the sense from him, having just kind of watched his sort of demeanor and the way he approaches games. I kind of just don't think that stuff's gonna bother him either. Like I don't know, man. Am I going crazy here? Like being like I feel.
So here's the path. I think you're right. I mean, Vegas would tell you as well that Toronto is favored to win the series. They've got 2 cracks at it. I think that you are right that the line is wrong. You know, the +3 seems too generous. I think Golden State was 1-point favorites going into Toronto. So basically that line suggests that nothing is different except Durant's not playing anymore. So I think that those 2 lines seem inconsistent to me. And certainly Durant, even 12 minutes of Durant is worth more than 3 points a game from my perspective. Like this guy, when he was out there, was 3 for 3 from 3, scored 11 points in those 12 minutes, had a block and 2 boards. Like, yeah, he wasn't 100%, but he was a lot better than wherever those 12 minutes are headed from here. I'll tell you that much. And so here's the path, though. I think if Golden State's going to win, a few key things have to happen. A, the Clay, Dre, Steph trio need to not be exhausted. They each played 41 or more minutes. That's pretty tough. Those, I think, are the 3 close. So, yeah, those 3-minute totals are right around what Kawhi and Lowry played. but no other player on Toronto played even more than 34 minutes. I think Toronto's core guys are going to have more energy going into this game. The path for me is we need to get the good parts of Boogie without the bad parts.
Good luck.
Boogie was super... Well, I know. I'm just trying to give you the path, all right? So here's the good parts. He was a very, very effective scorer in the last game. He was really sort of having his way down low. I think he's building himself back up to game speed. And at least offensively, the Raptors are having a hard time with him. The problems with Boogie, of course, are the mental game is still very weak. He's getting 4 fouls in 20 minutes is too many. Obviously, the 2 goaltends late in the game were pretty brutal. The offensive foul, the moving screen or whatever, you can call it a tiki-taki call if you want, but he didn't even try to sell it. Like, he just literally stuck his butt out backwards and hip checked. I can't remember who was coming off that screen with Curry. I think it was Lowry.
It was Lowry,
yeah. But so that's the path. You get good Boogie, not bad Boogie. It's more like the Game 2 plan where he can play 27 minutes and be effective. And then I think from there you just need to run hot from 3 again. I don't really know how else you get around it. And
that's
I think
it. Yeah.
That's a lot to ask. I mean,
it's too much to ask. This is why I'm so confident. This is why I'm so confident. It's too much to ask. Like, you need, like, Boogie. Yeah, he's been. I'm with you. He's been good on offense. He's been an absolute disaster on defense. He had. I don't like plus minus is a very wonky stat. So I don't usually like to look at plus minus because it matters as much of who you're playing with as anything else. He had 14 points in 20 minutes and was a -4 because they blitz him on the other side time and time again. Like, they want him to be on defense. Again,
he lost track of Gasol for at least one of those threes and a layup. And to say nothing of Ibaka, when Ibaka's been in there, essentially as not even a stretch 5, but like almost like an unstretched 5 when he comes in there and just starts crashing the boards. Like, he looks absolutely invincible against the Golden State front court when he goes down low. Like, when Looney's not out there, Ibaka absolutely has his way, and that was very apparent when he was up against Boogie too.
And the other thing too is you're getting, and they lost one of these games. But Clay has shot 54% from 3, 60% from 3, 67% from 3, and 50% from 3 in these 4 games. Now, they've only won 2 of those. Like, they're 2 for 4 in those shooting performances. The one where he shot 60, played 42 minutes, shot 60% from 3, they lost by 13. That's the game. That's the proxy game that you're mentioning. Again, too, I'm not like drawing these things. I'm not blaming you. I agree on almost all your points. But they got that game from him in Game 3 and got dumpstered anyway. Right? So, like, what can change, really? Like, God forbid he regresses to his 45% or whatever. They lose by 20. Like, I just don't really know where it's coming from. And that's really where I can't see it. I can't see where the scoring is coming from. Iguodala can do nothing on offense. We talked about Cousins. Draymond, they've got his number pretty much. They're giving him wide open threes when he wants them, and they're saying, if you want to come to the basket, you're in big trouble. And then after that, the bench of these guys like, Looney, he's not an offensive guy. Livingston's been kind of a disaster. And then it just gets worse. It arguably gets worse from there. Like, you get like Miracle Quinn Cook shooting games. Good luck trying to get one of those again. Like, I don't know, man. I just don't see it at all. And I think that way too much of it is born off this sort of devastating loss. It's Golden State. They're going to rally behind. At some point, you just don't have the firepower. I hate to say it. I get that this is a transcendent, like, historic team. It's been a fun run. Maybe they pull it off. If they pull this off, this is the greatest win. This is the greatest finals victory ever. If they win these next 2 games,
I mean, it would be the second ever comeback from down 3-1, and it would be without their best player. So yeah,
that's what I mean. This would be
the best comeback.
This is the best one ever. If they pull this off, if they win these 3 games with what's happened here, this is the greatest finals victory of all time. I'm not a basketball historian like some other people, so someone can go back and tell me I'm wrong about that. I know, like, the LeBron Kyrie year, but like, this would be something else. Okay, we're gonna get out of here. Any other final NBA thoughts? I'm very excited for game. I'm going back to the same place, but I'm watching in the same place. I'm not one of these people that's going to pivot. I'm going back to Los Campaninos. I can't remember the name of this place. I should give them a shout out. They treated me right. In this place. I watched that. Any other final thoughts before we get out of here?
Just a quick question. Are you going back there to try to hang out with those chicks that invited you to watch the game?
I got hit on. Look, I'm going to bring this. I was kind of saving this because I'm starting another podcast about the Nets. We Got Nets podcast is going to be coming right after the playoffs. It's going to be on the DFSR channel. Not with you, though. It's going to be
Did you submit a payment, by the way, for advertising the podcast on the pod so far? Because I'm not involved in that project, and it just doesn't seem right that you're just going to be.
I was going to save the story for that podcast, but I'll tell it real quick. So I'm sitting there by myself in this bar in this sort of private-y room, because that's what they were showing on the big screen, by myself. And this woman comes out of the bathroom. I would call her it doesn't matter.